A man accidentally dropped a cigarette butt and was shocked to find the grass on the lawn suddenly dodging it. This scene stunned Jay. He quickly came over to check the cigarette butt, but when his fingers touched the soil, he realized it was not the normal soil he was familiar with. He promptly picked up a hammer nearby and started digging. As the soil was turned over, Jay was surprised to discover that beneath this lawn, the soil was like yellow Play-Doh. Jay was immediately gripped by a deep fear. He hurriedly called his wife Lisa over. The two decided to dig together to see what secrets were hidden underneath. However, they dug for a long time without finding any valuable clues. Just as Lisa was about to give up, a strange cry suddenly came from the sky. That terrible sound seemed to come from another world. Jay quickly brought over a ladder, wanting to climb to the roof to check the situation. But the scene before him left him shocked. He saw that the entire community was composed of identical detached houses, stretching as far as the eye could see. Jay couldn't help but feel a sense of despair. What the hell was this place? Thinking back to a few months ago, Jay and Lisa had come to a real estate sales office, dreaming of owning a house of their own. The salesman Matt enthusiastically introduced their properties. Although located in the suburbs, they were all large detached houses, and only 800 yuan per square meter. This price was undoubtedly a huge temptation for the couple, so they followed Matt here without hesitation. Bizarre things followed in quick succession. When they actually set foot in this community, they found it was completely deserted. All the houses looked exactly the same, densely arranged together. This strange sight made Jay feel a sense of unease. They followed Matt to house number 9. The interior decoration, appliances, and furniture were all complete, and were all provided completely free of charge. If they could pay the deposit today, they could also be exempted from a year of property management fees. Such attractive conditions, presumably no one could refuse. The couple were naturally very tempted. They began to look around the house. However, just as they were about to leave, they found that Matt and his car had disappeared. The two waited at the original place for a long time, but still saw no trace of Matt. Jay realized that something was wrong, so he pulled Lisa to drive away. However, they got lost in this seemingly ordinary community. No matter how long they drove, they always ended up back in front of house number 9. Jay thought it was a problem with his wife's driving skills, so he took over the driving and had Lisa open the phone navigation. But then they discovered in horror that the phone had no signal in this place. Having no choice, Jay decided to drive in one direction. At least this way they could leave this haunted place first. However, even when it got dark, they still hadn't been able to drive out of the housing estate. Until the moment the gasoline ran out, the car actually stopped at the door of house number 9. By this time, the couple was already exhausted, so they decided to rest in the house for a night first. However, in the house, they found that there was actually a bottle of champagne and some strawberries in the refrigerator. They were very hungry now. Without thinking too much, they could only eat their fill first. They spent the night like this. The next day, Jay wanted to find the way out. Since the car was out of gas, they could only continue to search in one direction. However, even when the sun went down, they still hadn't been able to walk out of this community. Just as they were about to despair, Lisa suddenly noticed a light shining through a window. They excitedly rushed into that house, but found that it was still house number. However, what was even stranger was that at this time, a box had somehow appeared at the door, filled with daily necessities and food. They seemed to be being held here like prisoners. This made Jay and Lisa feel afraid. Jay even crazily lit the box on fire. He planned to burn down this house, thereby forcing out the manipulator behind the scenes. The house quickly turned to ashes. However, no one ever appeared. The exhausted two could only spend the night by the road. The next morning, Lisa, who woke up first, noticed the box not far away. However, when she opened it, there was actually a lovely baby boy inside. There was also a sentence on the box: "Raise the child until he grows up, then you can leave." The couple were instantly horrified. But what was even more horrifying was that house number 9, which had been reduced to ashes in the fire, had now been restored to its original appearance. In order to regain their freedom, they had no choice but to accept this baby. However, what was surprising was that this child's growth rate was abnormally astonishing. In just 2 short weeks, he had grown to look like a 10-year-old. Not only was his appearance different from ordinary people, his words and deeds were even more strange. He would often imitate the tone and manner of speech of the two. What was worse was that whenever he felt hungry or angry, he would make a sharp, ear-piercing scream until Lisa met his needs. Jay was always thinking of ways to escape from here. One day, Jay suddenly thought of an idea. They only needed to put the garbage in the box every day, and then put the box at the door in the evening. The next morning, a box of fresh food would appear at the door. They only needed to observe who changed the box, and then they could catch the manipulator behind the scenes. On this day, they stared closely at the box, waiting for the mysterious person to appear. However, with just a moment of distraction, the box had already been replaced. Lisa went back to the house in despair, but Jay still hadn't given up. But at this time, the cigarette butt he casually threw out actually left a patch of grass empty. This was followed by the couple digging all the time. This discovery made Jay very excited. He believed that under this lawn, there might be a passage leading to the outside world. In order to escape from here, Jay began to dig day and night. He firmly believed that this was the only way to leave here. However, after digging for a month, Jay still had no gains. His body had also become very weak due to overwork and malnutrition. Lisa watched her husband so obsessed with finding a way out, feeling both distressed and helpless. But she couldn't persuade Jay, because digging had become Jay's only spiritual sustenance. On the other side, the boy's abnormal behavior became more and more bizarre. Every late night, he would silently turn on the TV. What he watched was neither movies nor advertisements, but some indescribable symbols and images. He seemed to be learning some creepy knowledge. This inhuman behavior not only made Jay and Lisa feel fear, but also made Jay feel disgusted. Finally, when the boy screamed incessantly because the food was not to his liking, Jay's anger reached a boiling point. He angrily picked up the boy, regardless of Lisa's dissuasion, and locked the boy in the car parked outside the house. Jay hoped to vent his anger in this way, and even force the hidden manipulator to show up. However, at this time, Lisa felt sorry for the child and opened the car door to let the boy out, regardless of Jay's obstruction. This not only disappointed Jay, but also made the gap between the husband and wife more and more obvious. From then on, Jay became silent. He buried his head in digging the pit every day. When he was tired, he would lie down in the pit to rest. Lisa took on the responsibility of taking care of the boy alone. Although she was also filled with fear and uneasiness in her heart, she still believed in the promise on the box. However, on this morning, the boy suddenly disappeared. Lisa searched all over the community, but never found the boy. It wasn't until dusk that the boy returned home with a book. However, when Lisa flipped through the book, she found that it was full of symbols and patterns that she couldn't understand. When Lisa asked the boy about the source of the book, the boy only smiled mysteriously and said it was a secret. So Lisa decided to guide the boy to tell the truth through games. She let the boy imitate Jay and her own expressions and movements. Whenever the boy imitated vividly, Lisa would give enthusiastic applause and praise. Gradually, the boy let his guard down. Seeing that the time was ripe, Lisa proposed to let the boy imitate the person who gave him the book today. The boy's terrible expressions frightened Lisa. Lisa said in a panic, "I am no longer your mother." In the blink of an eye, another 3 months had passed. The boy had grown into a strong adult male, while Lisa continued to take care of him like a maid. Since determining that the adopted son was not human, the couple lived in fear every day, afraid that one day they would be eaten. Lisa also regretted very much that she had stopped her husband from killing the boy back then. Due to long-term fatigue, Jay's body was also getting weaker day by day. Faced with such a predicament, the woman decided not to wait for death like this anymore. She noticed that the man would take the book out every day, disappear for a while, and then come back. So Lisa decided to secretly follow him and try to find the exit of this maze. But every time she would lose him unintentionally. At the same time, Jay had a shocking discovery by accident. He actually dug up a corpse tightly wrapped in a plastic bag. Jay hurried back to the surface, wanting to tell his wife about it, but his body was too weak to even stand still. In the end, he could only fall weakly by the roadside. After discovering her husband's abnormality, Lisa hurriedly wanted to take him back to the room to rest. But unexpectedly, the man locked them outside. No matter how Lisa knocked on the door for help, he insisted on not opening the door. Having no choice, the couple had to sleep in the car for a night. Early the next morning, Lisa found that her husband's physical condition was getting worse and worse. So she went to knock on the door again, asking the man to lend a hand. This time, the man finally opened the door and came out. Lisa hurriedly asked the other party to save her husband. Who knew the man just said, "I don't think there's any need for that anymore." After saying that, he left without looking back. Jay didn't last long and died in his wife's arms at dusk. For him, this might also be a kind of relief. Lisa fell asleep on her husband's corpse, but the man walked over with a box in his hands. Lisa thought there was food in it, but when she opened it, it turned out to be a body bag. Lisa immediately broke down and couldn't help crying loudly, but she could only watch helplessly as the man put her husband's corpse into the body bag and threw it into the pit she had dug with her own hands. Early the next morning, Lisa hid in the car. Taking advantage of the man going out, he suddenly attacked from behind with an iron rod in his hand. The man let out a terrible scream and crawled to the side of the road like an animal. He actually lifted the road beside him and hurriedly crawled in. Lisa followed closely behind, but saw that underneath was actually another world. Seeing that the man had disappeared, Lisa hurried in without caring about her fear. But the next second, she fell into a red room. A little boy was sitting by the TV, watching the strange patterns in it. In the kitchen, a woman was sitting at the dining table crying silently. This familiar scene made Lisa feel extremely shocked. But before she could recover, the ground under her feet suddenly turned into quicksand. Lisa quickly sank down and fell into another room. As the space she entered kept changing, Lisa saw more families trapped in this extremely bizarre space like herself, and she finally returned to the familiar house number 9. Lisa dragged her tired body out of the door. After letting out a final desperate scream, she finally couldn't hold on and fell to the ground. After a while, the man appeared again unharmed and put Lisa into a body bag. The pit Jay had dug ironically became the couple's grave. Perhaps there were far more than these two corpses underneath. The man quickly filled in the pit, and the grass on the ground quickly covered all traces. Everything was as if it had never happened. Then the man drove away from this community and came to the sales office. At this time, Martin was already old, but after seeing the man's arrival, he used the last bit of his strength to take off the name tag on his chest. Then he stopped breathing forever. The man put on the name tag expressionlessly, and from then on became the next Martin. He took out the fruit that had been prepared long ago from the cabinet, then put old Martin in it. He even stapled a receipt to the edge of the bag. Then he easily folded the bag and put it in the drawer next to him. Today is little Martin's first day at work, but he is very lucky. Before long, a young couple walked into the sales office.